Hello and welcome to this audio video overview of all the information you're looking for about this employer branding independent sales consultant opportunity. Now, what we're doing is this. We're creating a video that you can listen to. You don't have to watch. You can listen to it anytime, anywhere. It gives you the flexibility of taking advantage of the information, listening to it again if you need to, and you can get back to us with next steps at your convenience. This is a way that we can also treat everybody the same. When we provide information, normally it's through an interview process. You speak with a recruiter and go through a normal screening discussion, and it's usually a dialogue. There's information provided, and then there's information that we gather. Well, this ensures that everyone gets exactly the same information, but it also gives you a chance to think about your response. Instead of being on the spot and having an impromptu need to respond to a question, you can think about how you're going to respond to all the information you're going to get right now. So there's no artificial intelligence. There's nothing going on behind the scenes here. These are all real people, and this is hopefully going to make the whole process more efficient and better for you. So first of all, who is this for? You are receiving this because you've been identified as a candidate for the employer branding independent sales consultant opportunity. So congratulations. Where you're at in the process right now is that we've posted a position. You perhaps saw something online, or you were given an invitation by email, and we went through a pre-screening process. And after that evaluation, you were sent next steps. So you're actually somewhere around second base on this process. And from here, what happens is we provide you a detailed email. You would have already gotten that by now with a link to this audio video and a downloadable brochure that we encourage you to look at in its entirety. And then next, we have a questionnaire that we'd like you to complete. Basically, that's the information that we would be asking for if we were on the phone with you. And that gives us a chance to receive it, look it over, and be really prepared for a conversation with you and initiate next steps. That also gives you a chance to think about how you're going to respond to each of the questions in that questionnaire. So first of all, before we go any further, I would say that what we've put together in terms of an opportunity is essentially for one of a couple different people. Either you're looking for a way to leverage your existing client relationships and your existing C-level relationships and take advantage of another opportunity to maybe meet their talent needs or provide some other solution that complements what you're doing. Or you just have an appreciation for what's going on in the talent acquisition space, and you recognize that this whole employer branding discussion is an absolutely huge blue ocean right now. And there's not a better time in the world than to be involved in offering this solution to this market. Now, let me just sidebar real quick. If you're not familiar with that term blue ocean, there's a concept that is used commonly in competitive strategy conversations around a red ocean is where there's lots of sharks competing for limited food. And it's bloody, it's red, and the competition is fierce for those few resources. A blue ocean is like open water, nothing around, and there's no competition in sight. Organizations struggle to either find a blue ocean or create a blue ocean because that's a place where you can thrive, you can grow, you can dominate a market because there's no competition. And frankly, we just kind of stumbled into this vast blue ocean. It wasn't by design. So regardless of your position, whether you have an existing set of relationships that you're looking to take advantage of and to serve them at another level, or you just see that there's a significant opportunity here, you're going to appreciate this information. So before going on any further, let me introduce myself. My name is Mark Galvan. I have been in the HR outsourcing and human resources space for about 20 years. 9 of those years was at Accenture. When I was at Accenture, I had a team of about 250 people in 5 delivery centers across North America. I had federal clients and commercial clients. I even received an award at one point for the innovation and development of a human capital application that we eventually deployed to 14 different countries. I also have a Lean Six Sigma Master Black Belt from my time at Accenture, and my entire focus has been on lean quality methods. So I've been very, very blessed to be able to work with all kinds of different organizations, everything from public companies to privately held, small startups, municipal, government, federal, quasi-government, and even nonprofits. And that spans like 35 different industries. So since 2010, I've been very, very focused on this issue of talent acquisition disruption, looking for ways to break the current paradigm and to build something that is more competitive and more efficient. Specifically, creating a robust set of talent attraction solutions. So a word of warning right now, real quick. I'm a very professional person. My background is working with large corporations and been in large boardrooms, so I'm very professional. But I also have very strong Christian values and beliefs, and I don't just speak that, I live that in practice. But I'm not going to be super politically correct or overly sensitive here. I'm going to give you a lot of information as fast as I can, and it's not going to be sugar-coated. This is not a sales presentation, so I don't have to worry about that. I'm sharing this information with you like you're a colleague. I know where you're at in the process, and so this is probably going to come out to be a little bit more raw and real and very transparent, and I hope that's okay with you. So just a little bit about the company, Proforce. In 2008, I founded the business, Proforce Innovations, to develop a very scalable set of solutions to meet this whole employer branding need in the marketplace. Now, at the time, I didn't realize how big of a blue ocean that was. Like I said before, it was really my mission and purpose to figure out how to support good leaders who have good companies, valuable products, valuable services, and they really need to achieve a higher level of success and grow their organizations, but they're suffering from talent-related issues. If, for example, the entrepreneur or the CEO has hired an HR professional to manage that part of the work and an operations manager to manage ops, he's really or she's really depending on them to solve the talent problem. And if it rolls, out to a recruiter, then it's probably going to erode even further. So that was my mission and purpose. Now, if you download the opportunity overview, the PDF file on one of the links in the email, you're going to see a bunch of additional reference resources. You might look for the webinar link, because if all of this is interesting to you, you're really going to like the webinar because it goes into more detail on some of the stuff I'm going to share. So even though I've been working on this stuff for about 9 years now, it's really coalesced into a set of robust solutions, and I'm working with a third-party software company to develop a scalable SaaS solution for some of the things that we've got in terms of offerings now. So it's at a very exciting point of inflection. So let me just speak briefly to the problems that we solve, because if I could back up just for a second, enterprise architecture is the idea that in every organization, there's a stack of dimensions, typically people, process, technology, information, resources, legal and compliance. All these things make up the enterprise architecture of the organization. And my favorite question to ask owners and CEOs is, which is the most important layer? And a lot of times there's a struggle between, well, is it people, or is it technology, or is it information? Is it intelligence? I don't know why it's such a struggle. It's a people issue, because if you don't get the people layer right, everything else gets messed up. I had an opportunity a few years ago to have breakfast with Jim Collins in San Diego, the author of Good to Great, the book. And I actually had a chance to talk to him in this small breakfast, and I had one question I really wanted to ask him, and it was this. I said, Jim, in the book, you've got basically a blueprint for Good to Great. Is there anything that is so important that if you get that one thing wrong, the whole thing's messed up? And he looked at me and he said, yeah, there is. And I said, well, you didn't put that in the book. And he laughed. He said, there is one thing. If you don't get that one thing right, then all of the strategy and the roadmap for good to great is useless. I said, okay, so what is the one thing? He said, if 80% of your key positions are not filled with absolutely the right people, then everything else is going to fall apart. Well, there we go. It all went back to people again. So this is a really critical element because a lot of times the recruiting and the HR and the development of people is just completely delegated to one part of the organization. So me personally, having been in the HR and the staffing space and as a consultant for over 20 years, and even longer as a regular consultant, I've seen this pattern everywhere. The business that recruits the wrong people has a lot of other problems that show up. And I'm talking about symptoms like cost overruns, quality issues, customer satisfaction, internal morale, safety, compliance, legal risk. All these things are symptoms of a deeper problem. But what typically happens is you have operational experts that come in and they try to solve for each one of these individual symptoms. Like, what can we do to improve quality, or what can we do to improve morale? But a lot of it systemically goes back to, you got the wrong team. And I know that's a hard pill to swallow for an organization that's already done its recruiting and in its investing. But years ago, I adopted the philosophy that as soon as we have turnover, we have a chance to fix the problem. So when somebody gives notice or they get terminated for cause, great, that's an opportunity for us to trade up. And that commitment to identifying the right people for every key role is critical to transformation. So there's a big risk an organization has in trying to solve for all of these symptoms and not look at the root cause related to their people. So let me describe it to you this way. One key root cause is you never have great people apply for your jobs. So a company has a job posting, they have an open position, and 6s and 7s and 8s apply for the job, like on a scale of 1 to 10. Well, there's no 9s or 10s that even apply. And it's a pattern because 9s and 10s don't want to apply to a company that looks like they suck. I mean, you look at their Glassdoor scores or their comments on Indeed or their online profile or the information they have or don't have about their total rewards and how they project their organization. An individual can tell right away if this idea of, oh, people are our greatest asset is live and real or not. Authenticity speaks loud if that's true. And if it's not true, somebody that's a 9 or a 10, they don't even apply to the jobs. So imagine this. You have 100 applicants, and after all the ranking and rating and the sifting and sorting, you have all these 5s and 6s that get disqualified. And so now you're left with 7s and 8s. Well, the 8s look really good in a peer group that doesn't have any 9s or 10s. So I've been a strong proponent of this idea that if your organization cannot attract people that are 9s or 10s, then you're going to inherit all kinds of symptoms and problems later. But when an organization, on the other hand, goes through a process of controlling every element of the candidate experience and intentionally creates the experience and messaging that resonates with their right target high-performing audience, it's transformational, like almost overnight. I mean, imagine when you hire somebody that's a 9 or a 10 and they come in as a high performer with prior knowledge and experience and enthusiasm and passion for the work. They have an immediate impact on the existing team by elevating the bar. It doesn't have to start with a total turnover of the organization. It starts almost immediately. I've seen this over and over, including with teams I've managed. So I'm real passionate because no one can tell me I'm wrong. I've seen it, and I've seen it over and over with clients as well. So the one thing I would add here is that technically, the smaller the organization, the more important it is for them to get this right, because a bad hiring decision in a small business or a medium-sized company has a hugely disproportional impact on the smaller organization. So, well, one more random comment here is about COVID-19, because I've heard a lot of people say, oh, unemployment has now made it so easy to find job seekers. It was so difficult before. It was an employee market, and now we have all these people that are available. Hello? Not exactly. There's a lot of candidates out there looking for jobs, but it's only in certain niches. So if you're looking for restaurant or hotel or travel industry professionals, yeah, they're all unemployed. But if you're looking for software engineers with Java front-end experience, it's still going to be difficult. Nothing has changed. Now, in some environments where there's a lot of applicants because there's a lot of unemployment, it's actually made this whole problem worse because it's now harder to sift through a larger number of applicants. And another thing about this issue of there's now more applicants available is it doesn't solve for the original problem that I was just talking about. The corporate image, the online reputation, the employer brand doesn't look good. So it doesn't attract great people anyway. So what if you have 500 people apply for a job? If there's no 9s or 10s in the candidate pool, you're still stuck with hiring people. This is where we come up with the phrase, the mirror test. If they can fog a mirror, hey, we'll hire them. Unfortunately, that's not too far off, even in a lot of organizations where there's white collar, highly experienced, prior experienced positions. So enough of that. I want to dive into a couple more things before I run out of time here. One is our unique value proposition and our differentiators, because one of the things that I've intentionally done is taken all the experience of working with clients over years and worked very hard to create a holistic solution. And it's intentionally more aggressive and more powerful than anything I can find in the marketplace today relative to employer branding. So for example, here's just a couple high points. So you have a very strong takeaway that what we do, it transforms a business, and we know what we're doing, and we have proven cases, and we have a process and a procedure. First of all, we have an employer brand strength assessment. This is a utility that evaluates almost 300 data points to determine the brand strength of an organization. Yeah, I know that there's a couple of similar kinds of tools that are out there, but again, we intentionally created something that would have a much more dramatic impact on the business by being more thorough. One of the ways it's more thorough is there's what we call a 4-point protocol approach to branding. It's the fact that the employer brand is only one dimension. The brand of the leadership is another brand. The brand of the organization as a supplier of goods and services. Their consumer brand is another dimension. Their talent brand is another dimension. And all these things have to have alignment. We have an infographic that we use to show that an organization's core values needs to be in alignment with their internal brand. And that needs to be in alignment with their external brand, the external perception of the business. So this 4-point protocol is critical, and organizations that are out there don't have that type of approach typically. We also have a very well-defined 6-step process that either shows up as we do it for you, like we'll come in and we'll do all the analysis and we will assess what needs to be done. We'll do the interviews, we'll take the information and create what you need, or we can do it with you. And if we're doing it with you, then we have the tools and the templates that we provide with 8 weeks of training and coaching for all of the retained team members. It could be talent acquisition, it could be HR, it could be web development, any one of those team members, or even marketing. They get involved and they own it. And by going through the process with them, they take ownership of the work. They become believers more in their own company at the end of the day. And we embed within that organization capability. We leave them better off. Okay. Another thing that's completely different is we have a training element all on its own. It's one of the things I'm so excited about because I've seen it just blow people's minds. The idea is you got to get more from your recruiting. There's, I think, a video in one of the links provided to you where it explains this in more detail. But we have an infographic we use of a bullet hole right in the center of a bullseye. And what that illustrates is the one person that got hired, that's the bullseye. We hit the bullseye, we got the perfect candidate, we filled the position, our metrics are good. And around that bullseye is 99 bullet holes of the other 99 candidates that missed the mark. Well, in any other environment, that's called collateral damage or complete waste. And in recruiting, it's somehow acceptable, because all we're paying attention to is the one hole in the middle. Well, who's paying attention to the other 99 holes? We borrowed from Cisco Systems playbook years ago where they said that if a candidate is not going to get offered a job, we want them to at least buy our products. Well, this same concept shows up in the network marketing industry. I mean, these guys are the masters of recruiting. Like, they recruit people and you have to pay to go work for the company, right? So when you look at that paradigm, what's happening is they have this concept of shoot for the recruit, but miss with the sale. In other words, you're trying to recruit the person, but if you don't, at least get them to be a consumer of the product. So in a recruiting environment, there's so much more we can get from the recruiting process. And we do this every day. We can get brand evangelists. We can get a list of potential contractors for project jobs as 1099s. We can get social mentions. We can get followers. We can get referrals. We can get referrals for candidates for other open positions. We can even get sales leads. Yep, we do that. We get sales leads from the actual applicants in the process. So that's what we mean by harvesting more. And that's I'm really digressing right now, but it's very exciting when we get a chance to implement that for a business because it's so transformational. And part of the reason why this is the case is because I'm an executive level, enterprise level person where I look across the entire organization. I don't look at any one silo. In recruiting, all you're measured on is recruiting metrics. In HR, all you're measured on is HR metrics. In marketing, the same thing. You have your own set of metrics. But when you look at it at an elevated level, there's so much more that we can get from every exercise. We have another thing that we do where we rebuild all their total rewards. And one of the things we use is audio video job descriptions. So you're getting a taste of this right now. This is a version of what we might do for a client where it's an actual presentation of the company, their products, their services, how they're differentiated. And it's important. If you're going to treat the candidate like a VIP, then you're going to give them all the information they need up front to answer the question themselves. Would they be interested in working for this organization? In most recruiting environments, it's like, hey, if you're a candidate, you have like a privilege of answering questions or getting an interview. And it's not done the same way. We also are now building a 52-week program for soft skills that new hires can go through to actually improve retention, performance, and their contributions. And I'll give you one more example of how we're differentiated. We even have a process where when we reject a candidate, we give them access to career resources so that they can, number one, be better off if they leave the process. Number two, they feel good about the organization because they got treated really, really well. It gives us a chance to go back to them if we ever need to. And that goodwill in the marketplace is invaluable. So these are just some examples of the extraordinary difference between the way an organization typically attracts talent or just simply recruits versus what we implement after we're done. So now let's talk about you for a minute. What's in this for you? Because you're listening to all this from the perspective that you might be in a sales and business development capacity. Well, I'm I'm going to suggest that there's a couple different categories of benefits to you. And these are rewards that are just more than money. I mean, yeah, definitely, first of all, compensation. We've got multiple tiers to the products. We've got multiple products and services. We have some recurring elements to that. So there's recurring revenue and recurring commission scenarios. And then we also have a high ticket offer. And what we're doing is anywhere from $10,000 to $100,000 for an organization. Typically, it's an engagement that lasts months, and it could be survivable over a long period of time, which generates even more opportunity on both sides. So yes, of course, there's great compensation, but there's also a learning and development opportunity. I mean, as a professional, you can expect that you're going to grow in knowledge and understanding of probably the hottest area in the talent space. Because even if AI and automation continue to transform the technology behind HR and recruiting, guess what? If an organization doesn't have the message right, it's still not going to work. I used to call that automating waste, where in Lean Six Sigma space, a lot of times it was believed that if you could automate the work, you could save money. You would reduce labor, but if it's a wasteful activity, why would you want to automate it? So, AI and technology and automation is not necessarily a solution for the talent problems we're talking about. So another thing is you're going to get exposed to a whole new paradigm. What we're talking about is so radically different that it's going to make you more valuable in any conversation. Recruiting has basically been done the exact same way for the last 30 years. And it's only been recently that we have just completely smashed that mold. Now, larger organizations have already begun to make this shift, but absolutely the small to mid-sized market hasn't even touched this stuff. This is just completely out of left field for them. They're getting beat up right now in the talent space, and they don't even know why. So we're just now starting to see all this reach a point of inflection where we're expecting extraordinary growth for these opportunities in the market. So that brings up another category, future opportunities. I think that the conversations that you're going to have with decision makers are going to open the doors for you to reconnect with people that maybe you haven't talked to in a long time, an opportunity to build great new relationships, to bring a transformative solution to a very real set of problems to a business. And those opportunities are going to help you personally maintain your own market competitiveness and personal differentiation going forward. I mean, that leads to career stability and what I like to call career agility. It gives you the ability to pivot within an organization or within industry because you're tooled up with so many different levels. So, yeah, economically, there's probably more opportunity here and more landscape ahead than we have any idea of at this point. But there also could be a long-term opportunity with us, with Proforce. Who knows where this is going to go? There's a lot of conversations going on behind the scenes that are not public, and it's very, very exciting. So I would also finally add that there's some intangibles. I mean, you get to participate in supporting an organization with professional colleagues, with a servant leadership management style, and be really a part of something bigger. I mean, this is something that is definitely transformational, and it's something that we'll get a chance to talk about for many years into the future. So diving into a little bit more about your role, I'm going to cover a few more things here before I wrap up. One is your role and what's your responsibility in all this as a independent sales representative. If you're a sales consultant, then you're essentially responsible for identifying opportunities within your sphere of influence. And with that comes the need to qualify those leads. And the ideal client has a lot of gaps. I mean, you can't miss them. They're an organization that has several characteristics that are seriously, you can't miss them. First of all, they have open positions or they have active recruiting requirements. And when you go to their website, for example, they have a careers link. Typically, if it's at the top, that's good. If it's buried at the bottom in the footer with a bunch of other like legal links, that doesn't tell us that they value their people a whole lot. We want to see that careers link up at the top. Like, hey, our people are as important as our customers, that kind of an attitude. It's conveyed in just where the link is. If you click on that link and it immediately opens up a page to all of their jobs in Taleo, it's like, really? That's kind of like if I go on Match.com and I pull up somebody and they look good and I send them a link to marry me. Like, where in business does that make any sense at all? That you're just gonna give somebody a link to a job and they're gonna apply. Those days are over. Candidates are more efficient on the web, more able to access information than ever before. And they're going to find out everything about your company, including everything you don't want them to know. And unless you control that and it's genuine and it's authentic, then you have no chance of attracting the right people. So your role is to identify that client and identify these gaps very, very quickly. You can see, like I said, from their website, if they have open jobs. You can also see oftentimes from their Glassdoor or Indeed profile. If those scores are poor, obviously they're not managing that on multiple levels. Another thing is your role would be to qualify the organization for suitability. Now, the ideal client is ethical. I mean, they got good leaders. They got good people. They're not screwing people over. They're not doing things that are illegal. I mean, we don't want clients like that. I've turned down clients like that even recently. We do not put lipstick on pigs. I've done this before where I've made organizations look amazing, and we don't do that. And we're not going to pick up a client that is in that situation. Like, they need to turn over their leadership first. Another responsibility you have would be to engage the decision maker. Now, I'm going to share with you a common problem that we see, and you'll run into it too, for sure. A lot of times, the CEO or the entrepreneur is the best decision maker because they can find the budget for anything that needs to be done at any point in time. And you don't have to talk to somebody that has budget authority over a limited budget. If they see the need and they have the ability to fix it, they can make an immediate decision. However, a lot of times the C-level person, COO, CFO, CEO, they're going to say, well, you got to talk to HR. That's an HR issue. And then you talk to HR and they say, no, that's a talent acquisition issue. You need to talk to our VP of talent acquisition. And then talent acquisition says, well, no, what you're talking about is like branding. I mean, isn't that marketing? I think you should talk to marketing. And then marketing says, no, what you're talking about is stuff that goes on our website. No. You got to talk to the web development team. And you talk to the web development team and they say, have you talked to the CEO? Like, we can't do anything. And then you're like, are you kidding me? This happens all the time. And so it emphasizes this siloed problem and lack of consistency. In Lean Six Sigma, there's a concept called value stream owner, and that is someone in the business has to take ownership of the entire solution end to end from start to finish. So I personally call this the talent supply chain. The talent supply chain starts long before you post a job, and it ends when somebody is high performing in their role. Everything in between that involves a lot of different people, but somebody's got to take ownership of that. And very rarely does anyone own it. So we have a sales process, of course, but your relationships will probably move the needle a lot faster. Going back to one of Stephen Covey's principles, speed of trust. If you have a trust-based relationship with somebody, you can get to third base and home plate much faster than trying to build that from scratch. Another thing that is your responsibility in your role here would be to qualify emotionally and quantify financially the pain that the customer is in and the impact of a solution. So when somebody hears, we're going to charge them $55,000 for a full solution, and they're like, oh my gosh, that's ridiculous. Well, is it? You just paid that much twice in the last 4 positions you hired from a staffing company that did the permanent placement recruiting for you. And what do you get from a recruiting company? You get a button, a chair, and an invoice. And then there's no guarantee. Okay, maybe there's a 60-day warranty or 90-day warranty, but that person is not staying forever. And did that recruiting organization leave your organization better off just because they filled the position? I would advocate no. So it doesn't even compare. When we look at the total cost that the organization is bleeding out from alternative solutions, like using third-party recruiting agencies, and also the turnover internally and the lack of performance and all the other symptoms of problems of not having the right people, $55,000 is like a ridiculous bargain. So I'm just throwing out a number. Like I said, we've got solutions that have been $8,000 a month for a year. We've got solutions that have been $10,000 one time. A lot of it depends on the size of the business, the scope of the work, and really how screwed up they are. And another responsibility you would have would be to close the deal based on what I call an outcome, not necessarily the scope of work. The scope of work shouldn't have anything to do with it. We're going to transform their organization. It doesn't matter if it takes us 100 hours or 10 hours. The deal cost is based on the transformative nature of the work we can provide to that organization. And frankly, I'll just tell you, we won't take on a client if we're not absolutely convinced that we're going to make a huge difference. So there's some vertical industries where it might be a little bit of a stretch because of lack of familiarity, but right now we have a very industry agnostic solution. The whole point of what we built was so that it could be deployed in various verticals. I mean, we got engineering clients, we've got marketing clients, we got blue collar, white collar, we got all kinds of stuff. And the same principles apply. It looks different when it's deployed, but it's still the same playbook. And then, of course, finally, you would have a responsibility to maintain perhaps a consultative position. We recommend that we always show up like a doctor. I mean, we're the experts. We know what we're doing. And in every conversation with the client, we have to maintain that doctor frame that they're the ones that's sick. If they don't like our advice, okay, well, that's fine. But it doesn't mean our advice is wrong. You could be either a lead generator where you're passing on leads to us and not necessarily involved in all of the pricing and the discovery and the solution build and the closing of the deal, or you could be involved in the entire thing as a closer. So you probably have seen by now that some of the requirements we're looking for are I don't remember if the job description said high school or bachelor's, but it should have been a bachelor's degree or equivalent. Also, a prior B2B marketing or sales or consulting experience, especially talent solutions. If you've got any exposure at all to staffing or recruiting sales, this is like a walk in the park by comparison, because there is everyone out there and their brother competing for staffing and recruiting sales, but there's no one talking about this stuff. Blue ocean totally. We also want you to have some level of knowledge and experience, ideally with the employer branding and recruiting scenarios. That could either come from us or from your prior experience. So I know this is a lot of information very, very quickly, but let me explain next steps at this point. I mean, if you're still listening to this, then you just might be the right kind of person to be on our team. We have a questionnaire that we want you to complete. That's our chance to get some information from you. It's not just a check off the box exercise. We look at every answer and we evaluate all that information in preparation for a conversation with you. And that puts us on third base. It makes our time with you very, very efficient. Now, if you've listened to all this and you've thought, well, this is not really what I thought it was going to be, but you still know people of influence, You could still be a lead generator and not necessarily be involved as a complete consultant. So you might just consider that. And you can let us know that on the questionnaire. If I think there's a question specifically around, are you looking at an opportunity to be a full sales consultant or just a lead generator? So you just don't have to be that involved and still have a extra income opportunity on the side by referring organizations where you have an existing relationship. So one of the things in the questionnaire that we're asking about is, yeah, of course, prior experience, but it's more about why. Why are you interested in this? And why you? Why are you the right person? Why is this good for you? And anything else you want to tell us, again, we listen to that and we pay attention in great detail. And then from there, the next step is either a phone or a Zoom call. So regardless of what happens or what direction you go personally, I would just encourage you to never be discouraged. I mean, if you're looking for something full-time with a base salary and, other opportunities, and this really isn't what you were looking for, well, you know what? We still appreciate you and appreciate the fact that you've been in this process with us because we believe everybody is a VIP. When you get in the right seat on the right bus, everybody can be a high performer. So we treat everybody that way. And so if we disengage from you during this process, we're still going to leave you better off in two ways. Number one, we'll extend this opportunity for you to make extra money with us simply through our referral program. And number two is we'll actually help you with your job search. We'll give you access to the same toolkit that our candidates and other people on our client services side for candidates, they pay money to access. We have a special program because of COVID-19. We'll give you access to all those resources to help you in your job search. And there's a bunch of cool stuff in there around resume building and how to interview and stuff that you would never know unless you were behind the scenes. And that's our way of thanking you for being part of this process. And by all means, if you know of somebody who you're thinking right now, hey, this isn't for me, but oh my gosh, I know somebody that needs to hear this. Well, you can put their information on the questionnaire and we can get that and we'll follow up with them directly. Or you can let us know by phone or email or however you want to contact us. And we'll give you that opportunity to share that information as well in the questionnaire. So at this point, I just want to thank you for hanging with me. I didn't know how long this was going to be. I just knew the kind of stuff I wanted to share, and I'm excited about where this is going and your possible opportunity with us. We are in a blue ocean opportunity. It is huge, and it's very, very exciting. This stuff keeps me awake at night and prevents me from sleeping other nights. So God bless you, and take care, and we look forward to seeing you on Next Steps.